I'd have to go with Boston. Just based on the contrast of the skill level on the team versus what he was at the time.
Welcome, everybody, to the VALKAST presented by Acquire. I am your host, Matt, a.k.a. the Big and Tall Matt. Joining me today is the second best general manager of Valkyrie, Mitchell Spektral Coon.
I don't know if that's accurate.
It's pretty accurate.
There's only two.
I mean, there's only two. You're right.
Unless we count, since Pancake hasn't been promoted to COO yet.
Whoa, Intel.
You heard it here first.
Oh, anyway. Pancake for COO. Second best GM, and the other GM, Big and Tall Matt, here with you today as the host.
All right. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear it.
No.
I'm going to pretend I didn't hear it.
Let it fly up, let it fly up. All right. So, Mitch, how's the day going, bro? What's new? What's new and exciting for Mitchell?
It was a very slow start to the day. Fell asleep after. I woke up at 5 to take Kayla to work. Well, it's actually more like 4:30, but took her to work, came back, was supposed to get up at 10 to pick her up to take her to her second job, but I fell asleep. She tried to call me multiple times. She called Josh, and then he woke me up so I could actually do it. So it was kind of a stumble, but it was a rough start to the day, okay? But we're good now. I'm up on, if you didn't know, Gamer Subs. It's not a Gamer Subs tub, or it's not a Gamer Subs shaker, but it's in here, I promise. And that's how I'm surviving right now and not dying, so.
Yeah, it's actually funny. It's funny, not funny that you say that, actually, about you falling asleep when your girlfriend's calling you multiple times, because that happened to me 3 days ago. I fell asleep right after work, and Ashley went to the trash compactor here at the apartment, and she like twisted her ankle or something, and she had to call her brother to come get her because I was out. Yeah, she called. I think it was 7 times when I checked. She called me, and I was like, wow. I'm like, what's wrong? And like, when she came home,
that's what's gonna happen to me because Kayla doesn't answer her phone.
Dude, it's a good thing Josh is there. Shit.
Yeah, the most obnoxious thing is like, she'll call me and I'll miss it because my phone will be on silent. So then I'll turn it on, and then I'll call her back, and she won't answer on the call back. Like if it's 2 minutes later, I'm like, come on, you just called me. You have your phone in your hand. Yep.
No, it'll be like a minute, like not even a minute. I'll call her back. I mean, granted, she's probably in school or something, but it'll be like a minute after the fact that like she calls me, and I'm like, okay, I can finally call her. Like, say I was in the middle of work or like in the middle of a match or something for like when I'm playing a game, she won't pick up. Things you hate to see is that she's right here.
She's like, right. I'm exposed.
Exposed! All right. But anyways, so let's go ahead. The first segment we're going to go ahead and talk about is honestly probably the start of your esports career for the most part, apart from being a designer, but being a player. We're going to go ahead and get into that first. So what actually led you to becoming a Call of Duty player and pursuing the competitive route that you chose?
I mean, it started way back when I was junior high, when Black Ops was the current COD. I had buddies who had systems that actually were able to run it, but I had a PlayStation 2 at the time, so I wasn't able to. But whenever I'd go to their house or they'd come over and bring their consoles, we'd play Zombies, and Zombies was like my first start to Call of Duty, and I loved it. I don't know how many hours I logged on Keynote or Toten, but it's probably some hellish amount. And it's from there, like consistently playing that with them. Then when Black Ops 2 came out, I kind of like sort of started dabbling in multiplayer because that was probably the best multiplayer COD of all time, in my opinion. People disagree. Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, I don't care. For me, it's Black Ops 2. I know there's a lot of people backing up for that, but started just kind of getting into that, and the league play system was kind of my first taste of it. It was just kind of like I didn't know what to expect. I just knew it was going to be better competition, and I liked that you could earn a rank. And then one day I just got caught in the YouTube rabbit hole, as it always happens that way. If you don't have anything you got to do for the day and you start watching a YouTube video, it's kind of like Oreos. You can't, or what is it? Lay's. You can't.
Oreos?
Or well, for me, Oreos, you can't have someone either. But Lay's, that's their thing. You know, you can't have just one. YouTube videos, I can't just watch one. And I stumbled upon CWL Anaheim, or back then, MLG Anaheim.
Yeah.
Of Optic Gaming. So it was like Scump gets a cross map kill with the Scorpion, that video. And it was just kind of like a whole new world opened up. And I was like, there's people who compete on massive stages for crazy amounts of money. And it's entertaining to watch. So that's awesome. So then from there, things just kind of evolved into what they became.
So, I mean, you kind of followed up on the next part of that. Is that who's your inspiration to get into competitive? It sounds like it was Optic Gaming / Scump for there.
Well, I mean, Scump was the first, but the one that really got me into it was Nate Shot.
Oh yeah.
Just the way, I mean, obviously there's a lot of people who are fans of his. Excuse me. There's lots of people who are fans of him. I think he brought something new to the scene that not many players have brought even since. Like a personality, America's favorite gamer is what he's been called. So that's something that drew me to him immediately. But yeah, definitely Nate Shot would be my number one.
So like, was Optic your inspiration for org then?
Yeah, initially for sure.
Was he on the Black Ops 2 roster?
Yeah. Yeah, I think at one point, yeah.
I would say I couldn't even tell you what the Optic roster was for Black Ops 2. I'm not gonna lie. I could have
changed. I know at one point JCap and Merc were on it, and Big T.
Yeah. I would say that was one of the Ghost was like one of the best teams at Advanced Warfare. I mean
Ghost was fun.
Yeah.
Ghost was probably my favorite personality wise team for Optic. Because it was Scump, Proofy, Clayster, and Nade. And then I think Embo was in there somewhere along the line.
I think he was there at the start, and then I think they picked up Clay.
Clay or Proof, one of the
two. I think it might have been Proof, actually. But I think about it now, I couldn't tell you what Proof is doing right now, just because, just the top of my head, I can't. But Scump...
There was a new like content organization that launched called XSET, and I think Proofy's like a founding member there, so he's kind of been pushing that.
Oh, I remember that happening, actually.
That was like a month or two ago.
Like with Nade Shot, especially like Clay and Scump still being in the scene, still playing, they're obviously still huge inspirations. And Clay, I dare say he's one of the best. Like, if you're a rookie going to Clay, that's the best thing you can do in your career. I think being an AM and getting lessons or just playing, maybe not lessons, but playing with Clay on a team for any amount of time is just insane. Look what he did to Simp and like RCD's Prestige. That team with EU United was insane.
I mean, that kind of goes for things outside esports too. Just learning from a vet, even if you have the talent, learning from someone who's been in the scene and practicing it for whatever amount of time that may be is just invaluable. So
I dare say Clay is probably the best coach you could probably have at IGL, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, when he chooses to retire from being on,
he needs the coach.
He'll be one of the best coaches out there, aside from like, I mean
Crowder.
Yeah, he's probably the coach.
Yeah,
as they call him. What's the other guy's name? Revan. Revan's pretty.
Revan's good. Yep. It's like, and then Scump is still a huge inspiration for esports. He's like literally the person that everybody goes to when they talk about COD nowadays. Maybe yet the youngsters like Sip and Arcity's coming into the scene, and what was this? I can't remember. I can't remember at the top of my head. Octane's another big one. I like him because he's cocky as hell, and he's on a shitty team. He's the underdog. And then obviously Nade Shot with 100 Thieves and everything. He's like, I dare say what I aspire to be. Going from playing competitively to owning one of the best orgs.
That's been my modern push, and that's kind of what spurred the whole ownership change from player to owner. Seeing that transition happen on his level is definitely inspirational for.
I mean, when you get Drake signing with you, as an investor, that's fucking insane.
It's hard to deny that it's something that's tangible down the line for sure.
Yeah, it is. But so when in your experience of playing, how long did you compete for? About 3 years majorly?
Seriously, I'd say really in Ghost is when I started doing like S&D tourneys and stuff and wagers in Ghost. So I think that's probably my first competitive push. But then
got you.
Team wise, like really keeping a set team of 4 and going for GB matches, tournaments, leagues, and stuff was more Advanced Warfare.
I probably ran into you for all I know. Back of the GB ladder. No, for all I know. Were you on Xbox or you PlayStation?
For Ghost, I
Advanced
started
Warfare.
on PS3. Well, Advanced Warfare, I had an Xbox from.
That's what I played on. Oh, okay. I would say Advanced Warfare is when that's why I did my GB
They
ladders
swapped to it midway through Ghosts, and I got an Xbox the summer that Ghost was still the title before Advanced Warfare came out.
Unlucky.
And then the next year they went to PlayStation, so I swapped that in for a PlayStation.
Yeah, it's the poor timing. We miss Xbox, I swear. No one actually likes PlayStations. I'm kidding.
I've had every single PlayStation that's been out. So I guess I call me Sony fanboy. But PC Master Race.
Yeah.
in the end.
I think my pick, Xbox 360's best console ever come out.
In terms of popularity and software, yeah, I agree.
I mean, obviously, it's not the best console nowadays, like tech wise, but I think
Yeah,
just surrounding the
of its
time that it
time.
was in, yeah, but it's of
I
any
mean,
time period.
I was a big advocate for the PlayStation 3 because I think at the time I thought I knew what I was looking at tech wise. A lot of people did YouTube videos of comparisons of graphics, between
Yeah.
PlayStation, Xbox, and PC, and depending on which console you owned at the time, you would advocate for, it's obvious.
Well,
Obvious
yeah.
that PlayStation's graphics better. Oh no, Xbox graphics are better, but they were pretty much the same. It's just a matter of the operating system and the software.
Yeah.
And since I was already integrated into the PlayStation style things, it was just natural that was my home. So
disgusting. Yeah. So as a player, then, what was your biggest mistake then?
Biggest mistake as a player?
Yeah.
Being too quick to take people onto the team, because I think it was just a matter of like, oh, this person actually wants to play with me, so yeah, they're on the team then, and that has caused a lot of issues. It's caused a lot of fights. It's caused a lot of overall just trouble. But I guess in a way, it's not as big a mistake as it is just a learning experience, because I got to see what the community is actually like, and it was a culture shock.
For
and
COD? No.
It also kind of made me appreciate the ones that were good that stuck around, because I think I met troops in Advanced Warfare. So for him to still be kind of around shows you that there are good ones out there. Shout out to Brendan if you're watching.
The real ones. But all right, so then we had your biggest mistake. What's your proudest moment?
Proudest moment, actually getting to go to LAN and compete. I mean, there was only the one at MES, but getting there and actually getting to compete was definitely cool, especially with it being on stream. I was a little pissed that they ended up going with Messi for the interview, because before that match started, they're like, we need 1 or 2 of you for the interview. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And everyone agreed, yeah, that's cool. But then after the match was over, Messi was already over there by Bryce interviewing. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Wait, like Bryce?
Yeah, Bryce Young.
Oh, no way. I didn't know that. I had to go back and find that then. Shit. For MES, I thought he was the AGN.
He was MES as well, because that's how I met him, was at that MES event. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was an experience. It's just those little Easter eggs that are hidden throughout the timeline that you make those networks.
That's funny as hell, actually. So you mentioned Messi, and I know how you feel about that guy, him being a jerk and everything, but and a Cowboys fan. No, I'm kidding. But what's your favorite and best overall teammate? Best person you've ever played with and your favorite to play with?
I think there's a lot of talking points when it comes to best versus worst.
Best IGL.
Best IGL. Well, I mean, to be fair, I usually try to take the IGL approach to it, but I think in terms of outside of myself, who was the one that was the most IGL-ish? It might be Erad, because he was a really smart player, even before I really realized that he was. In terms of keeping people together, that was usually my role. So whether within game strategies, not as much, because I wasn't trying to impart game knowledge mid-game or anything. We need to do this, we need to do this. It was more so let's knock it down ourselves. We may be down a few rounds in this S&D, but we can still make it back. You've seen it happen multiple times from various different teams at different levels. So
the vibe maker,
the glue that sticks everyone together.
So I got you. All right, so Slayer wise then.
Slayer-wise was definitely Messi. I don't think that's disputable. But before Messi was Troops, because before I met Messi, I don't think anyone really put up the numbers that Troops did.
I gotcha. So this is what I've been waiting for, and I think I know the answer to this. Who's your least favorite? All right, so your least favorite person you've ever teamed with, and the most, I guess you could say, just worst, just performance-wise.
Okay.
Everything.
Okay,
whatever.
So we're gonna differentiate the two then. So toxic, least
toxic and skill. Yes, toxic and skill,
and then worst skill wise. Personality wise, I think it's actually gonna be different than you think. Well, it's between 2 people. It's really hard to make a definitive answer there. One being Owen, just because, not because he's like a toxic person or anything. He's just very opinionated and will stick with that opinion regardless of what's going on, at least in the moment. After the fact, he may go back and, okay, I fucked up. But in the moment, he was very opinionated, stuck by it. And that kind of caused clashes mid-game quite a bit. And that's why I would put him
No
in that
bueno.
spot.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, it doesn't help. But then the other one that's kind of up there with him was prior to meeting Messi, prior to meeting even Troops, I think. There was a guy named Flannery, and he was also Canadian. He was younger than me. And he just he was just a toxic person. I don't know why I kept him along as long as I did. I think it's just because he was good at the game. Or he wasn't even really so much good at the game, but he was just good at slaying. He just kind of kill horde. And that kind of showed up on the scoreboard at the end. But yeah, he was just not a fun person to team with, and I was glad when he ended up going. Because it was just not good for morale. It was not good for in-game. It was not good for my personal confidence in-game.
No, I got
so,
you.
Yeah, him being gone was fantastic.
So now what about skill-wise?
Skill-wise, the worst teammate. Are we talking like long-term or just anyone at all? Like anyone?
Let's do both.
Someone. Okay, well, there's been people that I can't remember that have been like, okay, I don't know.
All right, then, well, people that are memorable then.
Yeah, people that I can actually remember. Then,
I think I could name them.
I'd have to go with Boston. Just based on the contrast of the skill level on the team versus what he was at the time. And he knows I love him. He's a great guy. Personality-wise, he's fantastic. He's definitely up there in the conversation for favorite teammate. Just overall, that event, our placing ended up getting costed a little bit because of the skill there. But I won't put it all on him. It was also mostly, or hugely attributed to Gorman, just because of the fact that he didn't really talk in-game. So if you're not going to intel, then it's hard to kind of shape how you game plan.
See, I think one of my biggest regrets was not grinding. What was it? Was it World War II?
Yeah, that was before.
What was MES?
Black Ops 4.
Black Ops 4. So if I would have grinded, I felt like I would have. I'm so mad I didn't grind because I feel like I'm better than Boston. Well, let me phrase this. I know I'm better than Boston, but I don't know about Gorman. I know I'm better than Boston. I can't speak for Gorman.
Bro. I would say in terms of like how you communicate, you're definitely better than Gorman was. I don't know about now. But skill-wise, Gorman was nice on the sticks. So
he was like, like I said, I was better than Boston. We would have dropped Boston in a heartbeat. That's all I gotta say. I'm okay with fuck. Boston would have been my bench warmer. Fuck. That's why I need it warmer.
Dude, my thumbs are sore.
Dude, Boston. I need ice packs on my thumbs, bro. Like, hurry up. my hand warmers. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh
dude.
Man.
No, I really wish I could have grinded Black Ops 4 as much as I could have, but we were going through me and Ash were going through like the moving stage to an apartment. Like we were just I was adulting. And I'm really mad. Yeah. Because Black Ops 4 is one of my better CODs. Like that and Black Ops 2 are like my two best CODs I played. Like that was when I was destroying kids on those two games. I mean, AW too. AW was pretty good at too. That was the first jetpack, so not everybody was good. So like if you were decent at COD and you could like maneuver with the jetpack, you were above everybody else.
Dude, Advanced Warfare was probably my most inconsistent COD of all time. I was either going way off and dropping numbers and topping the team, or I was just blowing it. And that was the difference maker on the team. If I was playing well, we won. If I wasn't, we lost.
Mine was World War II and Ghost. I just, for some reason, I think with Ghost, it was just really the maps that got me. World War II, it was just something about that game that I just couldn't really grasp all the time. If I wasn't using, what was the STG? If I wasn't using the STG, I was just trash.
World War II?
Yeah.
Yeah, STG was pretty good.
Yeah, if I was not using the STG, I just was not good. That's what I was, and I hated it. I couldn't use, I think the PPSH was the main sub.
Yeah.
I just couldn't use that. It was the first COD where I just could not use a sub, and I've been a sub player like the entire time. It was just something weird about that one. I just could not tell you.
I've always been a flex player just because I can't use one gun consistently for too long. I just get bored of it.
No, dude, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I can't.
Like Black Ops 4, ICR and the SOG were just so good, and Maddox was
Yeah.
pretty good too. Like that game, those three guns, it was fun seeing three
No,
guns instead of just two.
but hindsight in that title, when it came to MES, if I would have known what I know now, I would have told us, don't even bother touching the SOG. Let's run 4 Maddox, 1 ICR, and that's it. You don't need a submachine gun because the Maddox pre-patch was just unreal.
Oh, at the time it was broken. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was no recoil. It was shot really freaking fast, and it just melted kids.
It had the speed of an SMG with the AR damage and range.
Yeah, it was
so
unreal.
That gun was just broken in general. But so like obviously like it was a good COD. I think it was an underrated COD. I think Black Ops 4 is one of the most underrated CODs.
To a point, yeah. I guess I did have a lot of fun on that game, regardless of whether I was competing or playing pubs. Trey just knows how to do Call of Duty.
Worst card is Infinite Warfare, and everything else is at least decent.
Infinite Warfare was one of those where pubs was terrible, but if you had people to play,
watching competitive was fucking fun. Yeah, that was fun, but just as just a player in general, it was not fun to me. I don't know.
That one, there was like 2 guns you could use, so
I couldn't even tell you what they were.
It was the K-Bar and the E-Rad.
I remember the K-Bar.
There was an ICR. I don't remember if it was called the ICR. It might have been, but it was the main AR, and it was all right, but I think it was outclassed by the K-Bar. The K-Bar was basically the precursor to the Maddox. The Maddox was just like the upgraded version. So
I will always stand by the Infinite Warfare as by far the worst COD.
To each his own.
Then what is it to you?
My least favorite COD was definitely World War II, just because it played way too slow. Visually, it was cool, aside from the fact that it was super gray, and there was like no color, and it kind of just made you depressed to play. But,
this is what I always say. So for competitive wise, how'd you feel about it?
For World War II, it's the same way. I mean, it was just too slow.
So if you would have subbed out CTF for Control, how would you have felt?
In that game, I don't think Control would have worked. I think
too slow.
Capture the Flag was probably my favorite game mode in that, just because you could try to play fast.
What was the other game mode? It was S&D and what?
For World War II?
Yeah, Hardpoint. Duh.
Yeah, Hardpoint, S&D, and
I'm being dumb.
CTF.
It's always S&D and Hardpoint. How do you feel about it going back to Control this year, though?
Definitely a fan of it, because that's one of my favorite game modes that they've introduced, which is weird because you talk about the staples. Even outside of the competitive scene, you have like team deathmatch, you have domination, hardpoint, and search and destroy. Those are probably the 4 most loved modes of all time, and they're not going anywhere. They're always going to be in every Call of Duty from here on out. And so to add another game mode that is just as lovable and enjoyable as those was definitely something that the scene needed. So I'm excited to see it come back.
I want Uplink back. I really do. Uplink was fun.
Uplink was really fun. It's just that it's hard to do without having jetpacks, and I don't think.
Oh well, yeah. I want to see. I want to see them in or at least one of the next CODs, like boots on the ground COD. I want them just to throw in an uplink mode just for fun and see how it plays.
See, they had it in World War II, but it just did not work.
Yeah, they did have the LTM for that.
It's called Gridiron.
Yes, I remember that actually. Didn't work that well.
It was fun. But competitively, it just did not function right, and I'm glad that it was not the game mode.
It's like I like how I'm a big fan of Halo as well. So Griff Ball for me, where you just hold the ball and you got to hold it for as long as you can. I wonder how that would play in a COD. I mean, it's essentially Team Defender, but
I don't know about that one.
I love it.
It's possible. I just think the way the COD plays, it's not as viable.
I love it. I love Team Defender.
At Halo, you have that really long time to kill, and so I think that works better. But with COD, it's really hard because if you're playing like a hold this down type objective like that, you're gonna have your teammates close, and for a team it's gonna basically be whoever controls the ball to start is gonna have the advantage because you have to pull like a whole team life.
You ain't see my nades. That's all I gotta say. My Halo nades are insane.
The Halo nades.
I'm sorry. I look like the CS:GO team with my utility on Halo. I'm just saying. Fucking
Smoke
godlike.
King.
Bro, Nade King Matt, bro. That's all I gotta say. But I mean, like, with all your experience and everything that you've had in esports as a player so far, if going for the new players or even current players, what's your biggest advice for them?
Like advice to new players or current players?
And current, just competitive players in general.
So like not necessarily the pro scene, but the people aspiring.
Oh well, yeah, amateurs.
Okay, so for the amateur scene, I think get over yourself is the big one. A lot of people, that sounds harsh, but
No,
a
it's the
lot of
truth.
them,
It's
it's
egos.
the truth. People all automatically have an ego, and they say that, oh, you need to have at least a little bit of an ego, but I disagree. I think selfless players are the ones who are going to get the shit done in game that needs to be done. So one, get over yourself, and you can talk your shit when you win and when you find that success, but until you're there, just stay quiet, stay humble, work towards it, let it show in the gameplay. Second of all, an org's not going to bend over backwards for you just because you've won a couple golds online. It's just the facts. Even if you've won a couple of local events, it's just the case. So, again, kind of going with the first point, stay humble. Know that the org is in a similar situation to you, trying to grow. And then I guess third, make sure you're teaming with the right people, because there's a certain storyline when it comes to teaming with friends versus just who's the right teammate, I guess. Try people out, don't quit off the start, but if it's not working, just be honest with yourself and with them, and try and find the people who are like-minded, who are going to help both of you find success.
I mean, good advice for me, bro. Just don't get a fat head. That's all I gotta say. Be humble.
That's the biggest thing, man.
Don't be afraid to reach out and try new people. It's just that's one of the biggest things you can do, and just don't take people for granted as well, whether it's org owners or even players, dude. And
I guess in addition to that, don't burn bridges, because that's the biggest thing.
That's
huge. You can stop teaming with someone, or you can like stop talking to someone like on a daily basis without burning the bridge. So
you shouldn't be afraid to text them, hey, what's up? That's the way I like to look at it. If you're gonna be scared to text them, hey, what's up, or how are you doing, or something like that, you've burnt that bridge. If you're scared of doing that, you gotta be able to keep the friendships. I think I've only burnt job wise, I probably have only burnt one, but I think with people I've only burnt two, and one of them was like an IRL thing, like a friend of mine. I burnt his bridge because we burnt the bridge because he's a dick, and then just I think like in esports I've only burnt one, and just because we didn't mesh. And it is what it is, and I don't care for that person, but that's it. But so we've heard about
there, but we'll digress.
Yeah, well, we won't talk about it. But so you're going from a player to now a designer standpoint. You were a designer before a player, maybe not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Sort of, to some aspect.
I guess we're going to be talking about the past, the present, the future as a designer, though. But what truly is like did you just getting into graphic design? Did you just kind of take it as an elective in middle school, like I did, or did you actually yo, that looks cool, I want to make something like that? How'd you get into it?
I mean, I guess I kind of started from just being interested in art in general, from a young age. Just kind of oh, that looks cool, but I don't know why. Just it like the average person thinks about art and design, and then that evolved into taking drawing classes in middle school and even early years in high school. And I was decent at drawing, but it was more so I had to look off of something and emulate and render what I'm seeing. It just wasn't my medium, and so I knew that I enjoyed what I was doing. I just didn't like the niche I was in. And so that prompted me to get into, I think it was just called computer art in my sophomore year of high school. And that's where I was like, okay, I enjoy this. I'm better than everyone here at it.
Get good, fuckers.
And that's not even an ego thing. It's just the people in my class were just not creative.
They were there for probably a grade.
Oh yeah, it was an easy grade. And they wanted to be on yearbook staff or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're good when everyone in the class is asking you questions and not the teacher. And when the teacher is looking over your shoulder oh, how'd you do that? I'm like, oh yeah, I just got this plugin.
It's a clipping mask, I swear.
Yeah, it's a clip mask, I swear. Just right click. But I mean, yeah, it started there, and then just kind of doing it for fun for friends and people on Twitter. And it just kind of progressed into that. Okay, well, maybe this may be a career path I want to take. And that's kind of what brought it to where it's at today, just with practice.
Yeah, I mean, so it's you've done, obviously, my branding for my Twitch. You've also done, I think the most notable ones that I can think of right now, besides the Valkyrie rebrand, which we'll get into later, is Joe's Average Joe Woe stuff before he switched it a month or two ago. Doc Pops. You did Pandas, but he switched off that a little while ago. I mean,
Yeah.
you've done a lot of people's Messi's, Troops, Vital's old stuff.
Hmm.
It's
And then Vital updated stuff.
yeah,
And now he's
Erad
going
as
under
well.
just JNM, yeah. And then Erad, I think, still uses his on Twitter, but
Yeah,
never
he
really
does.
like took the brand part of it super serious.
Who else? I can't. You've done quite a bit.
I mean, org wise, I've done a lot. I've
Oh,
done
Illuminate,
a lot of like client work. Yeah, I've done a lot of client work too. Just for people around, like you said, like
yeah, just either everything. Yeah. What's
Mm-hmm.
your since we're talking about that, what's your favorite project you've worked on? Like whether it's like something you did for like an art project you drew in real life or something like that, or just an esports project in general. Valkyrie doesn't count. I gotta.
I was gonna say Valkyrie's probably my favorite project, but aside from that, I really did like the style, sort of the kit parts that we got to use for Illuminate. Even that being said, it wasn't
Mhm.
as developed as Valkyrie's was now.
Yeah.
It was more of like, this looks cool and I'll put it together. Boom.
I like it.
And then like a couple months later, it's like, let's add this because I think this looks cool. Whereas Valkyrie's like everything's centered on history, everything's centered around the theme, and we have sort of like a system in place for assets that we have and use and then add to, the system.
No, I got you.
So Illuminate was one. Outside
client
of
work, then let's do client work.
Oh, client work. Oh, boy, I'm gonna have to open my folder for that because there's a lot.
I mean, you also did the mock-up for Roker.
For Rocker. Oh, yeah, Rocker.
Yeah, Rocker, yeah. Because you tried to get in on that.
Yeah, I almost got hired by them.
It's like, besides the initial, I really like my shit. I'm not gonna say it's your favorite, but honestly, my shit, I just hated the initial drawing.
It's definitely a top 3. It's a top.
I just hated the initial concept we fucking had, the butt plug.
Oh man, yeah, that's why we iterate, so we can get the ideas out because you don't always see it at first.
Yep. A second eye.
I guess aside from yours, I really enjoyed sort of the concept that Bryce was gonna make his own org at some point. He was gonna go back to his old name, but he needed a fresh brand, like visually. So what I made for that was next level. That was pretty fun to work on because it was just so clean. It was more modern. You didn't end up using it, but I still did the work for it, so that was fun. Azure stuff was actually pretty cool, even though
I totally forgot about that stuff.
His header was probably one of my favorites. I
remember how good that came out too. Yeah, Azure shit was clean
for sure.
I'm trying to think of what other org. All right, well, Eclipse you did for it, but we won't talk about that. Even though that was decent, that actually wasn't that bad either. What other orgs have you worked with besides Rocker, Valkyrie, Illuminate?
There's just been like little ones here and there that like popped up and then went away.
O&R.
There's also been like O&R.
I forgot about that.
I didn't get used aside from like with the logo they went with.
The stream graphics really. I think a few people, like I know Renello uses them. He uses the webcam at least, but other than that, then the proud streamer people are using still. But other than that, besides the Twitter stuff, no one's really using it. But it still looked good for what you could use of it. It came out pretty good.
Yeah, and there's been like websites for tournaments that have hit me up, and
that's what you need to fucking do still, bro. I'm looking at all these like. Especially since we're in the tier 3 scenes and a lot of these scenes, I'm not going to at anybody, but I don't know who did EGL shit. That shit's clean as fuck, first of all. But there are other leagues out there that are just shit. Like, they don't know, like, they're like, this looks kind of cool. I made it in MS Paint, Which
is weird because they're operating at a fairly professional level considering what others are doing. So to have your brand and your image not reflect that is sort of jarring, at least to me. Some people don't care. Some people just care that I'm gonna get paid if I play in this league because I'm gonna kill everyone. But like from a business standpoint, it's like you got
how are they taking care? They get like if they're not taking care of themselves, they're not going to take care of you. If that brand doesn't look good, they're not going to take care of you. That's how I view a lot of orgs in general, and that's how I view a lot of just when I'm applying to jobs, when I'm looking at places. If it doesn't look good, what makes you think they're going to treat you any better?
Which is why design is so important because it comes back on your overall reputation from the get-go. So
So it's like you're talking about that from the get go. It's like when you're creating these graphics, we'll get a little bit into the Valkyrie stuff here because that's a big part of obviously what Valkyrie is today. We went from that huge change to what, like when I joined, it was the old school helmet that I really like, the helmet with wings. This is still, so I think it's right here. It's still a helmet with wings, but it looks like devil horns. And me and Nate will always say that, but it still looks. It looks fun. If it's the best stuff.
Let me know. I'm going to clear it up for everyone right here. You heard it here first. If there was no other video in the future, if there was no video before this and there's no video in the future, you know, the reason for that was historically, Valkyries obviously aren't a real thing. They're a lore in Norse mythology, and they sort of became a popular idea in Norse mythology when they started. When it more recently, I say recently when I'm talking like the early 1900s, when there was operas and stuff, the costumes for the Valkyries, they weren't called Valkyries then, but had horns on the helmets and not wings initially. So that's why we went with this.
So take it as you like. It's either horns or wings. They're really wings, but they look like horns.
Wings got popular.
They look cool.
It was horns. So
yeah, I mean, it looks good either way.
Be able to work as both, I think.
It's clean. Either way, I like it, you know? So, like, obviously, that was one big takeaway without branding. But when you're creating a brand or you're creating anything for, oh, really, it's still a brand for a client. Like, you created my brand. You created, like Valkyrie. You created Illuminate. When you're looking at these things, whether it's for a client or for your own personal use with Spektral, a Valkyrie, Illuminate, whatever, what do you look for first? Like, what are your main points when creating a design from scratch for major clients or major brands?
I mean, a lot of people will just say a word and make that their brand name, and just roll with it. I think you gotta start with a name or a concept that you're really interested in and is actually unique. Because I don't know how many like zombie dragon 420s we've got out there, or
at least two,
or like these words like I don't know. There's just basic words like aggro gaming. Sorry if you're watching this new own word called aggro gaming.
Fuck.
Where it's like,
wait a minute.
Sound fierce and aggressive, and that's our org name. And there's so many. It's oversaturated. Not only in the stylistic ways that they have their brands, but also the name. And it's like, how is anyone ever gonna see your org, or how are they gonna? How is your org gonna separate from the other ones if you're not doing anything different?
It's like, well, Valkyrie, I think when I looked us up initially, it's funny because one of them is with the choir. There's only two other orgs, Valkyrie, and one of them's like, I don't know what their technical name is for the other Valkyrie that's with the choir. And then there's just another Valkyrie Gaming out there as well. I think because we're esports /LLC, there was gaming and there was something else. And I don't remember what it was. But we have a Valkyrie that's with us with the choir. I mean, we're the better Valkyrie. You ain't... I'm not gonna get into that.
Not to like talk trash or anything, but yeah, I think we're definitely separated from the bunch.
Yeah, there's only two others, so I think we're doing a good job.
And I would have said the same thing before I joined Valkyrie and did that event, but I still think there is a separation in terms of brand awareness of the whatever was out there before. So
I mean, it's like the brand that we had before. I don't know who did the initial brand, but they did a good job. But then obviously this is good too. This is really fucking good. I dare say, I mean, I'm not going to at them or anything like that, but I'll leave that up to Zach if he wants to flash an image of the org that I will be talking about, is that we did. You know who I'm talking about. I'm going to leave that up to Zach if he wants to do it, but I highly recommend he does because it's a good meme. But they literally said that, hey, we like your branding. We're going to make something very similar to it along those lines of it. I'm not going to say how it came out. I think they did a fine job. That's all I got to say for what the resources that they had. If only they had Mitch. Anyways, so when you no, dude, listen, you're like one of the best I've seen. There's only a few others that I dare say that are better than you. I can't think of. I only follow like 3 people on Twitter that actually do designs that I like, and one of them I just follow because it's a friend, because it's you. I'm kidding. No point.
There's a lot of good ones out there. Honestly, it's weird that they don't get the notoriety that I see that they get from like more the vast majority of the scene. Like the average person in esports isn't going to see that. They don't see the behind the scenes that these artists take the time into doing.
We did do that behind the scenes video with Valkyrie for the initial rebrand too. I mean, That was, I mean, although like the audio was a little bit jacked between the four, me, you, Nate, and Zach talking, it was a little bit
Yeah,
weird. But the
I
the
think
the picture that we were trying to push, obviously, the message was
yeah,
there.
people need to do that more because it shows the thought that goes into making the brand. And while I may not see what some of these T3 and below orgs did to get to where they have their brand at now, it's hard to see that
Yeah,
from
there's
from average person's perspective. Like it doesn't seem like there was that work put in.
there's no message, you know. Like
Yeah.
we obviously we have, I can't remember what these called, but the triangle ones, you know the names. I can remember this one right here that I'm wearing, and
That's the
then
Valkyrie, yeah.
yeah, and then we have the tree, which I believe it was community players. I forget.
Yeah,
We have three things. I can't remember. You guys are better at remembering than I am.
that was, and that's the other thing. People need to do the research. They need to look into things and really get a knowledge base on what their concept is before they just create. Because you can make something that looks cool, but if it's not knowledgeable or if it's not like something that's interesting, then again, you're not going to separate. You're not going to be different.
You know what might be a good idea for a video? I think we should do this. Is me and you, or like even me, you, and Josh, we go look at orgs, no matter the size, and we all do. Or well, I really probably couldn't, but you mainly, and maybe Josh, we do a reimagined of it, and say what would you do different?
Like a meme review.
Yes, of an org. We do an org. Like, let's just say the org I'm thinking on the top of my head. Let's just go. I mean, I don't want to do Lycus actually because they just did theirs. Maybe Villainous. That's our rival for say. Like you would do a reimagine of Villainous or something in a video, and it'd be like we talk about like what is this, what is that, this looks good, that looks good, this is what I'm thinking, this is the message they should do. Something like that would be cool, and hell, give you some notoriety, and it builds up a portfolio of stuff that you just fucked with.
And if they see it, then they may take that into account into what they do in the future. So
maybe they'll hit you up.
If they're happy with it, then they can go with what they have.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just an idea, it's outside perspectives. Like I said, it's always good to have more than one pair of eyes looking at something. And with this, with the Valkyrie, you had me, you, Boston, and Zach all looking at this. So it's like, I think that was part of the reason why it came out so good, because you had three other people's opinions. But we really didn't change much. It wasn't just like
created, this is the final, we're pushing it. No, it was.
I think it took us like a week, or it took us, I think, like a week or two to finally get the final.
But it took about like 2.5 weeks just to get the concept, the logo down. For me personally, like just getting it drafted up and making that sort of like.
You took a while, but when we were finalizing it, 3 weeks. Yeah, that took you a while. So what the process overall was a month and a half, probably.
Yeah, month and a half, somewhere around there.
Like I said, and like I keep saying, we're probably one of the. Actually, you know what? I can't really think of a brand that's better than ours. That's on our level. Apparel.
Yeah, we may be a little biased, but yeah, I think.
I mean,
from a designer standpoint, trying to like separate myself from my affiliation with the Valkyrie, I think
I can't think of anybody that maybe Singularity, but now they're big. Now they're verified on Twitter and all that. Singularity stuff really clean.
I think their brand made the big time based on their team success and not so much that their brand was visually successful. So.
But I do say we do have one of the best brands, and I've said that plenty of times on this podcast by now, and probably on this episode of the podcast. I've at least said it 6 times. Is Zach I was gonna say do a little cut right there, Zach. Let's get like a counter every single time Matt said that the brand's the best or whatever. That'd be funny. I wonder if Zach would actually take the time and do that.
Nah.
Now he has to do it because we've proven him wrong. So if it's there, Zach, we love you. If not, we still love you.
If you don't, then you don't love your org.
For real. No, I'm. He's a busy man. I won't give him shit for it. Yeah. But obviously, we've talked about like what you look for and everything like that, and your favorite projects you've worked on. But it's like when it comes down to it, what's your inspiration though? Between it could be like an actual like artist like in real life or something like that, or it can just be an esports person. Like who have you looked up to like your entire time as a graphic designer?
I don't think it's been one person.
Well, it can be multiple,
or even just specific people. I think it's just a matter of keeping up with the scene. I think that's something that's different about design. It's not so much looking up to one person. It can be, it definitely can be, but I think the root of that comes from that person being, active in the community and seeing the progression of design and what's trending and what's cool and what direction are things taking to be effective. So I think that's really the the inspiration, so to speak.
Just keep it up with the times.
Caught up. Yeah.
I got you. I mean, that's a good way to look at it too, because I mean, like I think that was one thing I think we all kind of agreed on, is that Valkyrie was a little bit outdated, and we went with more of the modern, sleeker, simpler look. And I think teams need to realize that the trend is already going. If you're not on the boat by now, you're falling a little bit behind. Everyone's gone to a simpler design by now. Even the most pros, like even E United has been. I love E United's branding. They literally just, like, I think it was like a few weeks ago, they changed a few things. Like, there's no longer a curve, it's now sharp. Little stuff like that makes a big difference too.
It does. But people don't realize it. If you ask a person like, "Oh, what do you think of the change?" They'd be like, "There was no change."
It was very slight, and it's going to make a big deal, and it's going to be look a lot cleaner on anything you plaster that United logo on.
Yeah, it makes it easy to work with too.
I mean, especially going from the Valkyrie, which was pretty detailed, the old one that we had, to this one. This one's, you could hand draw this one now. Like, there's no like I don't want to say excuses, but like for apparel companies that have trouble with this logo, you know. Not that acquires having trouble.
It works on multiple formats, and it's, like I said, it's just easier to work with in general.
Yeah. And if you wanted to, you could probably make it more detailed and make it more complex. But I mean, like what we got now, the helmet looks good. There's really no need for it.
Is people tend to like overdo the logo, so they can just slap it on whatever they're making, whether it be a Twitter header or Twitch back. When in reality, I think the best way to go about it is to make the logo strong without being busy, and then you can alter it on those pieces. So don't go super heavy on shadings and extra shapes.
It just makes it harder to work with.
Yeah, because then you're stuck with it when you put it on something else. Whereas, specifically with lighting and shading and highlights, if you keep it flat like our logo, you can always change it when you put it on something. You can add some lighting on it. You can vignette it if you need to.
I think the only thing that I'd like to see on a different version, and I think I've said this actually, is to see if we could get because one of the biggest problems that looked like horns, like we were saying earlier, but it's like maybe getting like a texture, maybe not a texture, but just some like lines or something to make it look like feathers or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe. Just it's another iteration. I mean, obviously we're going to stick with this, but I'd like to see it.
Well, and it doesn't have to be the main mark that changes.
Yeah,
keeping it simple like this opens up the door for apparel design to be something different. That's where we can get a little more funky and detailed. That's where we can kind of stretch the truth and iterate really at the root of it all.
It just makes it easier. It's cleaner. It's nicer. That's every org needs to be doing this now. Going from an avatar to avatar I think is the right word I'm looking for.
Yeah, like your profile picture.
Yeah. Or a mascot. There we go. Going from a mascot to an actual logo, I think is the move.
Yeah, mascots used to function as logos, but in my opinion, that hasn't really worked since the early 2010s. The way the design trends have gone and how brands have become successful, you're looking at teams like 100 Thieves, United, and CDL teams, with Dallas Empire. A lot of these orgs have one thing in common, and that's strong typography and simple brand imagery. And that's something that mascots just can't capture. It's just not something that's working.
I'm going to say it now. I think I like mascots in CDL, and I might be a little biased because I'm a huge Florida Mutineers fan.
Well, see, and that's the thing. They stuck with what about mascots actually worked.
And that's true. Yeah.
Don't overdo it.
I love the Florida Mutineers branding so much. They did such a good job.
People gave it when they were leaking the logos and stuff before.
People gave it shit. Started. I remember because I didn't like it at first at all.
This is the worst logo, and I'm like, what do you mean?
I didn't like it at first either. I didn't like it at first either. Till the full when they did the full reveal, that's when I liked it. Because I didn't like the idea that they went with like the I can't think of what it's called. Cthulhu or whatever. Kraken. Kraken. It is a Kraken. I'm so dumb. Yeah, I'm so dumb. I'm a fake fan. It's they went with that. Then you got people like don't get me wrong. Dallas Empire still looks good with the crown. That's their mascot, their logo. But then it's like who is it? I don't like LA Gorillas. I think LA Gorillas has the worst branding.
No, see that's a case of simplicity done wrong.
Yeah,
I think that's just a matter of it seems like there wasn't as much work put into it.
Like the Subliners logo, I think looks cool. It's something different. I think that's why I like it so much.
That's a case of your logo doesn't have to be directly related to the name. It doesn't have to be depictive of what the name is. It can just be something that's like, an optical illusion or something that's just visually striking, something that's going to be remembered.
Yes, and then I'm trying to think of what other ones that I've actually really liked. What is it? I think it's the Surges is pretty good too.
Yeah,
I think I like Seattle. I like Seattle. Optic is optic, phase is phase. I mean, those are just simple. They're clean. You can't not like them.
That's a case of the brand recognizability was already there, and it's such a like potent brand, and it's recognized universally, even outside the scene, that it would be really hard for them to change the logo. And I think that's why Atlanta FaZe stuck with what they had and did such little change to their Atlanta FaZe logo.
They literally just added an A to it. That's all they did.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, though, I would have liked to see them do something
a little bit
with
more.
The brand, like call it something. The same thing with Optic Gaming. I would have liked this to be called, the LA something.
LA Thieves. We love to see it. That's all I gotta say.
See, there you go.
I can't wait.
They don't have to be the LA Hunter Thieves. They're the LA Thieves. Now it's tied to the brand, obviously, and it's very, very close. But it's something that's not. It's not just. It's specific to the CDL. There's no other team in any other game that's going to have LA Thieves.
It's nice. I'm excited to see the branding that comes out with the LA Thieves once that gets all going.
Yeah, but interesting to see what they do. I can't wait to see what Devin Sesso has
to do.
Dude,
yeah, dude. He always does good shit, dude. But I'm trying to think. So I'm going to ask this question because a lot of Chicago fanboys are going to be 100 Thieves fanboys now. Because now, are they staying Chicago Huntsman with NRG, right?
I don't know what's going to happen to the Chicago spot. It's either going to stay the Huntsman, but it's not going to be the Huntsman roster, or they're going to sell their spot to a different org, and it's going to be something completely different.
Because this is what I think. If I got this right, I think NRG's staying in, right? Optics out. That's what I got out of it. Optic and Thieves switched. Optics out, Thieves is there, NRG is still Chicago. I think that's exactly what happened. Because Hex bought Optic, sold because he couldn't keep ownership of NRG and Optic. He couldn't have two spots, so he sold Optic to Thieves, but he still has the Optic brand, just not the Optic COD spot.
That makes sense.
I think that's what happened.
Think that's where he'll have sort of like the same. He'll have Optic for content, but Huntsman for CDL.
Exactly. Yes, and Optic's going to be. I have a feeling that Optic's going to be... NRG is going to be the competitive side / Chicago, and then Optic will be the content side of NRG. Don't know how they're going to do it. That's still a lot more to come, but...
It's a lot of work for them to do there, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. Optic's team, I think a lot of Optic fanboys are going to be going to Thieves or Chicago Huntsman now, and I think a lot of Chicago is going to go to Thieves now. Yeah. Don't know. Just me. Because it's Nade Shot, dude. Yeah.
It's Nate Shot. I mean, that's where it came from me because, like, when Nate Shot made his Hunter Thieves thing initially, I was looking for a reason to like root for them because I'm not into League of Legends. I'm not really into any of the esports they had at the beginning. So for when they came into Black Ops 4 and had a Hunter Thieves COD team, that's why I was really excited because I wanted to root for them, and that was my reason. So then they exited, and it's like, well, shoot, now I fell off the Hunter Thieves wagon because they're not in the scene that I like to watch. So them coming back in, I think that's why I would make the shift. That's not to say that I won't still like the Huntsman. I'll still definitely be keeping an eye on them.
We like Hex. We like Hex. We like Scump. We like Formal, Envoy, and then I forgot what the fourth is.
Yeah, for me, it's
Dashi.
On...
Dashi, I think, right? Who's the fourth? Dashi. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, Atlanta's looking even nastier than before with our cities now. I'm just saying, bro. Thieves right now is just Slasher and Kenny. That's it.
Well, I don't even know if that's been 100% confirmed.
That's why they didn't sign contracts yet.
Yeah.
That's why. But I think Slasher and Kenny said that they're staying in Los Angeles.
Yeah. I mean, it's been implied, but it's not 100% confirmed lockdown.
Yeah. And then, whatchamacallit, Chino, who was a sub, is now on Los Angeles Gorillas with Nero as a sub. And that's cool as their AM team. Whatever, the Challengers team. But I'm excited to see. I want every CDL team to have a Challengers team. It's going to bring a lot of light to AMs, and it's the best way.
Academy.
Yeah, the Academy teams, yes. I think that, I mean, I've heard a lot of people aren't liking it because it's like, oh, now it's going to be even harder for us, like, teams that do place well in placements. I'm like, well, then just work harder.
Yeah,
Those
if you're
people,
gonna
I mean,
if you're
look
gonna
at
try to make your way to the top, you have to beat the people who are currently at the top. That's why certain esports have relegations.
look
That's
at
how you
Nero. Nero's on Los Angeles Gorilla. Zaptis was on the FaZe Academy. Now he's doing the West Star and he's winning.
mm-hmm.
That squad's winning.
They started on orgs as little as Illuminate. You know?
Yeah. Well, we've seen
it's our proud pupils.
Nero, and then what was it? What's his face on Roker? You always like to talk. Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
I thought you said one of those players was on Illuminate at one point. I don't remember. But Nero,
no.
I always talk about Nero and Zapdos. It's a shame Bacardi ended up just not pursuing, because he probably would be. Bacardi would be in CDL right now. He would be.
Yeah. Because Krim would probably brought him on to Empire because he loved
even as a sub, dude.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude, that would have been insane. Another one in CDL, and then you got Joe possibly signing to an org now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's gonna be insane. We saw
Huntsman Joe. That'd be
Huntsman Joe. I'm just Hitch said it, but it's fun. But it's like, so obviously we've covered being a player, we've done being a designer. It was only a matter of time before we came to being an owner, because you were a player and an owner at one point. But what led you? Let's talk about this, because obviously your proudest baby is going to be Illuminate. What led you to create Illuminate?
Well, I mean, you kind of said it. It was just sort of initially. I said initially a lot in this podcast. I'm realizing, out the gate, it was just a name to play under, something to sort of separate us. Yeah, that's always been sort of my thing. I want to be something different. I don't want to fit the mold. Mm-hmm. So just having something to put on your GB team names, mm-hmm. To say we're in this league as Illuminate Esports, mm-hmm. That was the main inspiration for it, mm-hmm. And then it sort of just grew into what it did.
Yeah. So it just was a GB's team name that led into an actual org. Then we ended up, believe what happened is that it shut down and it came back, and you brought me and Vital on board, and that's how I met you. Mm. So
yeah,
but yeah, I mean for Illuminate, I mean we kind of went into it a minute or two ago about like prize pupils, but what are your accomplishments what's your biggest accomplishments under Illuminate?
That's where I made a lot of my biggest strides in terms of learning what the hell I was doing in esports. Yeah. Because like I said before, it was just a name to play under, and it was sort of a way for me to keep active in the design scene for esports. Mm-hmm. But really in the second half, or I guess really the last final push before Illuminate closed down, is where I made most of the progress up here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I think that's what I could classify as my proudest moment. I wouldn't put it down to one moment, because it was about the progress. It
was your experience, your experience and the progress you've made and knowledge you've gained through Illuminate. Which, I mean, mm-hmm. that really was initially my push for esports, was everything that I've done and learned under Illuminate as well. Because before that, I really just did Remorse with Vital, and that was kind of a joke, but I still learned quite a bit from that team, and hence why, I mean, Vital he had a strong enough relationship with me to bring me under the restart of Illuminate. That's how I met you, Troops, and etc. And ended up working my way up to being a co-owner, CEO, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm here today as a GM with you and a Valkyrie.
Yeah.
It's gone a long way. It has. And it's what, 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah.
That's insane. Oh, my phone's on. Let me turn that off. But other than that, sorry for that. Let me do that.
There you go.
I don't know if you heard it. But so, I mean, obviously, it came with the players. It's going to come with Illuminate. What's your biggest regret?
Biggest regret?
Mistake and regret.
Okay, biggest mistake? I guess being on the fence on whether I wanted to pursue taking the player out or the org route seriously, because it was so hard to do both. And I thought that for the longest time that was going to be my defining characteristic, was I was going to be able to do both. Being a player for my own org was going to be how I brought the org into the light, as well as my own brand for being a player.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just there's too much to do for both things, and you can't do them both equally well and put in the work for both that you need to do. So you have to choose one. So yeah, that's probably my biggest mistake, was taking too long to decide that.
Yeah.
My biggest regret, I wouldn't say is a specific moment, but just over time, Again, being too quick to take people on, not really putting the time into thinking about the situation. And I get like there's a certain extent to where you're taking too much time and being too picky about who you bring in, but I'm a person who's too quick to trust people, and I think that kind of costed the progress. In the long run, it kind of impeded things. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like it's not. It's a sucky. It's a good characteristic to have, but it's also a shitty one. Just being able to be friendly with everybody and trusting them too fast, and that's one of my biggest problems. Is that I trust way too fast as well. And I mean, I usually start every. I'm nervous about meeting new people a majority of the time. So if I get comfortable with you fast, there's a reason for that, and that means I'm getting good vibes from you, and I'm able to click with you. But like now, I'm really like going off what I just said, I'm really lenient about who I trust fully now, just because of how many times between just like stuff that's happened in real life and esports in general, I've been screwed over. So it's I know what to look for now in people, and I'm good at reading people now. So
it can be seen as a character flaw or like your biggest weakness, but at the same time, it helped us learn. You know,
yeah,
you have
that's
to
part
fail
of it. Yeah,
to find success. So,
I mean, I think we're everything that we've learned without past experiences bringing it on to Valkyrie. I mean, obviously it's helped a lot with the rebrand and stuff. But combining our knowledge with Zach and Boston's, I mean, I just don't see why. I don't know. I don't see why, but we're just. I don't know how to word it.
We have a good feeling about where we're going in the direction.
No, like literally, this is the best feeling I've had in a while. Besides, probably when I was a GM for Illuminate, this is the best feeling I've had. Moving like
It's
everything that it could have became.
Oh, massive potential with the people here, the brand imagery, and then just overall camaraderie we have with people that we brought on.
Yeah,
that's the biggest for me. That's the biggest contrast from Illuminate to Valkyrie, is the business aspect and the leadership was there for both, but as much as I put an emphasis on, or I try to put an emphasis on Illuminate being a family atmosphere, it pales in comparison to what Valkyrie is.
We all root for each other, and it's nice. It's like everybody's interacting, whether it's in the Discord or on Twitter. We're all there cheering for our teams. It's like we bring that energy, and that's just something that I don't see from a lot of other orgs. It's usually the people usually when you go into matches, it's usually the people's friends and not people from the org. And I feel like with us, it's the opposite. You get more people in the org supporting you than you do your actual friends that are online in the Twitch streams and stuff like that. I mean, for God's sake, I cast every CS:GO match I cast. You know, that's already like it's something huge that we never did with Illuminate, and that we're doing here. One, because apparently I love the sound of my own voice, even though I hate listening to anything I'm a part of. I can't even edit my own videos because I fucking hate it, and I can't stand my voice, and I hate looking at myself in the camera all day.
Same though.
Why am I a Twitch streamer? No idea. Why do I try? Don't know. I hate both of it. Why do I do podcasts? Why do I cast? No idea. Can't tell you. Although with casting, I don't have to sit there and stare at my face like I do with this. Casting, I would say casting. I literally talk for like the first 10 or 15 minutes, unless it's the last game of the season. And it's a 32-minute wait because we'll keep rehosting. I'm fine with that. But like when I'm streaming, I make sure my quality is good. I'm looking over. I'm like, there's me. That's me playing Phasmophobia or Among Us. You know, no one wants to see that shit. But
totally get that.
It's like, so for we're going over we kind of answered my last question. Your biggest takeaways of being the X owner. You kind of answered that. That was going to be my next one. We kind of went into that. I'll go ahead and skip that since we already did that. But what ultimately made you shut down Illuminate?
It was just a matter of where I was at in my personal life, and with the people that were helping run Illuminate. It was a timing thing. Also, kind of just sort of. So I guess elaborating on that, we got a little busy. I know that sounds like a fake excuse, but life kind of gets in the way, and sometimes you have to take a step aside and figure that out first. And it just so happened that everyone involved in leadership was kind of getting that all at the same time, and so it just ended up being the best for the people a part of the org, for the people in leadership, the people who are trying to get into the org, that we shut down so that way we weren't letting anyone down, we weren't existing for no reason, and we weren't just fitting the mold again.
You weren't wasting resources as well. I mean, you don't want to waste people's time. I mean, like for
wasting
example,
time.
me, I was technically the first person on that boat to go ahead and drop out of it, but it was like with my IRL stuff, I completely ghosted you guys for a few weeks actually.
Yeah, I would say
Just because I
completely, but
like
yeah.
that's I'm not gonna at the person, but the one time, and there's still a clip of it actually on my Twitch channel. I didn't realize it until 2 weeks after it, where it's like I finally got time to sit down and play Siege, and someone came into my chat saying, "Hey, we got to talk," and I'm like, "Bro," I'm like, I rolled my eyes, and I will never remember that moment. And looking back on it, it's fucking hilarious to me how it worked, but at the time, it was like, damn, it's like I'm kind of a dick, but then again, it's like I don't get free time. Me streaming
Yeah.
Siege, bro, that's unheard of at that time, bro. It was my first
Mhm.
stream in like 3 weeks, and then it was the only stream for 2 months. So it was like,
Mhm.
and then
Well,
that
that's how you
happened, and that
know.
killed my
Well,
vibe.
that's how you know. If you're not enjoying the process of being involved, then why are you there?
I mean, that's part of that's. I mean, I like being involved in everything, but I just didn't have time for it. And I'm like, you know what? I finally have time. I want to play some games. That's what I want to do. I don't want to talk about anything
Mhm.
else.
It's
And
balancing.
then,
If you're not able to balance that because of
yeah,
how everything's functioning, then something has to give.
yeah. And I mean, I chose to. There was a tipping point, which you know about, that I said I don't want to be a part of this anymore. It's not what it used to be, and I just don't have time for it. And
Mhm.
that's ultimately what made me left. I focused on my real life stuff. I got back into streaming, and then I eventually said, you know what? I want to see if I can. Me and I was trying because Spriko was a part of Vanquish at the time, and me and Dorfus were like, yo, let's try and hit up some orgs. And I actually hit up Boston to say, hey, you guys looking for orgs? I didn't know how serious they took Valkyrie at the time. I thought they were just kind of accepting. It's like, oh yeah, you used to be my org owner or whatever when Boston used to play under Illuminate. And it was like, no, they gave me reasons why, and I was like, oh shit. It's like, fuck, I thought you guys would just accept us because we're like applying to you guys, but that wasn't the case. And then Boston actually approached me like, yo, you want to become like staff? And I was gonna be, I called the Discord moderator, because that's essentially what it was, and I hated it. I hated being the Discord mod, dude. I did not like it. I didn't do anything. And I said, yo,
That's
I'm being, no, I should have said to them, I'm like, yo, I'm being wasted as this dude. It's like, I need to be like a manager or something. It's what I know. And then they took
Mhm.
the chance on me. Like a month or two later, I brought you a bond. That was all me. The rebrand's all because of me. I just got to say that. Everything good happening. All but, no, I'm kidding. No, but I ended up bringing Mitch on because I'm gonna say this because I don't think we've actually ever talked about this in front of Zach or Nate. And I want to go ahead and say it now. It's not a big deal, but you calling me to do the new org.
Yeah. At one point, I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and I kind of wanted a fresh start. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but that in itself is kind of intimidating if you're going to do it alone, and so you tend to
Yeah.
cling to what you know and your best experiences, which is kind of why what you talked about earlier was valid
Mm-hmm.
and kind of relevant. And one of the best experiences I've had in terms of working with people was with you, and so that's
Yeah.
where I started. So
Yeah, and it's like, so when that happened, I said, nah, you should just let me talk to the, like, do you want to come on Valkyrie? And you didn't want to at first because you
at
wanted
the
to run
moment,
your own thing. Yeah. And I
yeah,
think it was like literally like less than a week later, he's like, yo, you should talk to them about it. Because I brought it up to them like immediately after the conversation happened. I said, yo, it's like, do you remember Spec? It's like, I might be able to get him on board. And I think right away they were like, yeah. And then I remember I was
yeah,
streaming when you guys had the interview meeting, and I was like, "Oh
mhm,
shit!" I don't
yeah.
know what I'm worried about. I know he's gonna get in if he wants it, you know.
Mm.
But I remember that happening that day. I was excited to finally being able to work with you. And then, I mean, obviously with the four of us, like me and you in the GM position, and then them in the owners and COO, CEO, with Zach and Nate. And it's like, I don't, dude. If there's just a little push we need a tiny little flick ahead, you know, and just to help us with. I mean, what we're doing well. Right now, it's just Twitter growth, in my opinion. The exposure, not just Twitter, but like everything we
Yeah,
work on. It's just the
social
exposure right
growth,
now. And that's the
and
hardest part. That's the hardest part
interaction.
about an org is the social
Mhm.
growth. That is the hardest part.
Like, how
But
do you convert? Um, what's the word I'm looking for? How do you convert interactions on a social platform to fans that
mhm.
stay?
And it's
That's
cool
the hardest
because with me, honestly, I mean, esports can only go so far with you. The amount of people you pick up. Excuse me. Holy crap. In my opinion, you get the most followers when you pick up a team, not when you win anything. When you
transition.
initially, like, I saw the boost when we picked up the two new players for R6, Indian Tater. I saw the boost when we picked up CS:GO, and I saw the boost whenever we picked up a streamer. Every time we get like 5 or 10 followers every time. But it's like when we won ESA with the Siege team, we got like 2. 2 new
Yeah.
faces.
Well, and yeah, the interaction levels go up, but it's up to those viewers whether or not
Mhm.
they choose to be
Mhm.
a part of the following.
You got, yeah, it's like if by, I think especially with the situation that you're in or that we're in right now, it's like or as Valkyrie, the situation that Valkyrie's in, I used to not think this, but I think that Valkyrie could probably provide a majority of any assets that you like coming into an org as a streamer or a player. Obviously there's some things we can't reach because we all know money's an issue,
Mhm.
especially with smaller orgs. Funding is just not there unless you got a sugar daddy of some sort, which unfortunately none of the four of us come from a rich background.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but
that's a misconception too. People, I think, tend to assume that just because you are an organization, I'll use that term lightly, that you have expendable income or you have, sponsors paying for
this,
things, and so that's why you get all these constant, hundreds and hundreds of DMs. At
I
least
want
when I'm
salary
eliminating,
now.
yeah, you look inside
That
the COD
the
team, you
challenge.
only want like a
My
few
bad.
$100s a month. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think you
No.
understand that just because we are an organization and just because we actually do have that extra step in being an LLC and having that license, that
Yeah.
the validity of that, it doesn't mean that we are a corporation. It doesn't mean that
Mhm.
we are a mini Optic Gaming. We, at the end of the day, we are just a group of people who are trying to accomplish the dream, and
Like,
we
we want
have
to
lives
accomplish the
just
same
like
dream
you.
you are.
So
We want to do the exact same thing you are. So if you're not, I like to think about it like that. I like this. If you want money from an org that you know doesn't have money, are you willing to pay them? You know,
exactly.
I like
I
to think
think,
about that. Are you willing to spend money, like even if it's just on merch, dude? You know,
yeah,
and it's
yeah. And that goes back
like
to my point earlier with the tips for players getting over yourself and understanding orgs.
mhm.
It's like, how do I word this? If you aren't willing to try things out without a salary,
Mhm.
like if a salary is your measurement, your gauge for is it worth my time being a part of this org, then you're missing out on everything else that org has to offer.
They're just giving you money. They're not like you're no one's
Money
gonna have a
short
family.
term, the experience, the
Is
brand presence, and the exposure are something that's going to last. And so you need to realize that
Mhm.
and sort of change your priority when it comes to wanting to be a part of something, and not just I need this so I can go to the event.
I mean, don't. It's like, I don't know how to word this with it being nicely or like a comprehensive sentence, and I probably said that wrong for all I know. But it's, I can't think about it without it being coming out wrong. You know, it's along the lines of, we like the we want to grow as much as you do. Don't be a jerk about it. You know, it's like, just
Yeah,
because you've done a few things in your life. This goes for every team that's hit us up. This goes for every streamer that's hit us up. Yeah, I've even had a few streamers hit up like, oh, like, or that I know of. It's like, I'm only gonna stream for you if you can pay me. And it's like, well, do you make money on your own already? It's like, no. And it's like, then if you're not making money, what makes you think we're making money, kind of thing, you know? We're just as big or a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger than you are. And it's like, just because we have
yeah,
teams winning also doesn't mean we're making money, you know?
yeah.
It's like that we give players a good cut, you know? The players take their money. We essentially make a few dollars plus the league fees back anytime we win. And don't get me wrong, I like that, because most orgs will say, that's another thing too that I hate, is that we'll pay you salary, but if you win, you don't get any of the money. And I've seen that. I've seen that in orgs before, and then people come out. Era Eternity was one of those. Era Eternity,
Mhm.
they pay their players like a few, like maybe $100, $200 a month, but then they win a $10,000 tournament and say, yeah, sign the contract. And that's another thing. Contracts are important as hell. Secure your assets, secure your seat, and secure your money. Contracts help out so much, dude. And
Mhm.
it
And I
just,
think a big misconception along that topic is um, lack of funding does not directly correlate to the desires of the org. A lot of people get butthurt when you say, "Well, no, we can't. That's not something. What you're wanting salary wise is not something we can provide for you." That
yeah,
doesn't mean like, "Oh, well, we don't really care about your team. We just want to grow our org." It just means it's not feasible for us. A lot of the
yeah,
times, for teams who may be watching this, players who may be watching this, if you hit up an org and you've got denied, just know that like I can't speak for everyone, but I would assume at least 90% of the time we want to sign you. We want to bring you on. and we would love to have you. It's just not feasible. We can't pull hundreds of dollars out of our ass without doing anything.
Then
If we
why are
could,
you
we
an
would.
org owner
If
if you
money
don't
was
have
no
money?
object, we would sign you. If money was no object, we'd have the best players out there and the best. We would have an office space. We would make a dedicated building for you to practice in with the best internet, so you can have one ping every day if you want.
The
But
Valhalla
it's just not
compound.
something we can do. Yeah, we just can't do it right now. It's just not there.
We're trying to grow as much as you guys are. That goes for every org. That goes to every org and to every player. That org is trying to grow just like you are. That org is trying to win as much as you are. They're trying to care as much as you are, and probably even more. You know, and that goes backwards too. The players as well want to win as much as the org, but you got to know is that if an org's willing to sign you and they're willing to keep, if that org keeps you for an extended period of time, they like you. If they say, "Hey, we want to resign with you," they like you. That is hard to come by.
Well, in addition to that, as long as they're giving you the attention and sort of the push that you need, you know, they can sign you, but signing you doesn't necessarily mean that you've made, you know, your worth. People are quick to judge the orgs based on what they do with their contracts and what the details of those are. But the only reason, in my opinion, you should be dogging on orgs or leaving them for a reason is if they're not doing anything for you aside from signing you. If they're not, it's one thing if there's a financial obligation there, but outside of that, if they're not helping you with your stream, if they're not helping you try to find better competition or find you a coach to help improve your game, if they're not checking in like Zach does every day, then you have a right to be upset with the org because they really are truly doing nothing.
They did nothing. Yes.
So that's the player side of me understanding where you guys are coming from. I've seen both sides of the fence. So just, you know, be patient is overall a good tip for everything.
I mean, this goes for recent events and this goes for past events as well. I mean, we were owners for a while and we've been GMs for a little bit now. We've been in the esports scene for a while. We know at this time we're still learning, obviously, but we know a majority of what works and what doesn't, and how things should be done. And a lot of the problems come with going back to it, having a big head, having egos, thinking that you're better than you are. You need to stay humble, and that goes for owners as well. That goes for staff as well. You just gotta learn to be humble.
On that topic, inside esports and out, one of the biggest things you can do to grow as a person is realize that admitting that you're wrong does not mean you're showing weakness or that you're soft.
Oh,
in fact, it's the opposite. It's showing maturity.
There you go.
If you can sit there and be like, I fucked up. I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry, butts. No, I'm sorry. And it only would have happened if this hadn't happened. Just own up to it, take responsibility, and figure out how you can change that in the future. Mm-hmm. That is something you can do to help grow as a person. It does not show you're weak at all.
Yeah, it's like I like put your differences aside and work together.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes for players to players, org or staff to staff, and then players to orgs. That goes all around. You got to put your differences aside to work together, and don't be afraid to grow. But I mean, like, other than that, dude, it's like you kind of already we went over it obviously again because we've been talking a while. But it's we're going back to the branding. I should say that actually. So it's like the obviously the Valkyrie brand, we've talked about why you created it. You need to go to a simpler look and you need to have a message behind it. But it's like what made you go so like I don't know how to word it now because we've already answered this. I'm gonna go ahead and just skip that part, dude. So let's just go into like what teams do you want to expand to in Valkyrie? Let's go from design to teams. You know, it's like because I can't think. Yeah.
Or I really want to, at least for me personally, I think I want to get more into COD. Obviously, we just signed a team.
Yeah.
But I think we need to explore, content creators that are competitors first. So people who are playing Warzone and finding success with that, because that's recently blown up in the last year. You know, like it came out right before COVID really got into full swing. Yeah. And since then, in the 6-7 months it's been out, it's blown up and it's become a major selling point for streamers joining orgs. And there's a lot of money in it too, because there's a lot of Activision endorsed tournaments. There's a lot of org endorsed tournaments. There's a lot of leagues out there, so it's something I think we should look into. Obviously, we have creators who play it, but someone who takes it more seriously
As
is something
an
I might
actual
want to think
competitor,
about.
yeah.
What was that?
But somebody that's actually like a competitor, not just
Yeah.
kind of plays it for fun and it's good.
Yeah.
It's like for me, it's like Rocket League would be a huge thing that I want to get back into.
Mhm.
And then I really like League. I like watching it, not really much playing it. We're already in CS:GO. We're already in COD. We're already in R6. All games that I like.
Something I would like to see is Valorant, and I know it's in a hard spot because the scene
They're not
really
doing a
isn't
good
expanding
job.
on the low tier. Like if you're
Yeah.
not 100 Thieves, TSM, Liquid, it's
Yeah.
not there yet. And it's to be expected because it is such a new game. It's just that it's disappointing because it was Riot and we kind of had really, really, really high expectations for it initially.
And it's out there.
So it will come with time. It's just frustrating for people in our situation who want to get into it and can't because there's not a scene.
I miss a Valorant team. I really do.
Yes.
I miss watching. I miss those kids. They were good. They were a good group. I miss them a lot. But it's like simply, it's like one, they just the second season they were with us, they just didn't perform well, and two, just Valorant isn't growing, dude. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, with the everything kicking off now, because there's like some sort of qualifier or tournament today or something like that I saw that was going on. Hopefully, in the next month or two, we see a decent growth. Maybe we'll see more players coming to the scene. We'll hopefully get back into it because we were on the initial train for it.
Yeah, the one thing I like to see is that Riot is taking a competitive first stance. Obviously, they've kind of lost a little bit of that steam with their success in selling in-game items. But that being said, I do think the updates they're pushing are prioritized for a competitive atmosphere. They're trying to have that competitive integrity to make this game work in that scene as best as it can. And they're always trying to update it to keep with that theme and that sort of goal in mind.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope for it.
I'm excited for that, and I keep saying this, dude. I miss the Illuminate Overwatch team, dude. Dosarinos, Scope, Spoon, Mac, all those. I miss those kids, dude. I want Overwatch again, but I know we gotta wait till Overwatch 2. I know that, but the scene is still there in Tier 2, but it's just obvious. Like when we were doing it, dude. When we had the Spoon group, oh my god,
we got lucky with them. That was just
we did. Because they signed with somebody else. Because I forgot who hit me up. It wasn't Spoon though, and it wasn't Dosarino. It wasn't Mac. I forget his name. I'm sorry if he's watching this. If he is, but he hit me up initially, and he said, "JK, we're actually gonna go sign with this team." And then he came back with me a month later. Hey, they're not doing anything. Yeah, we're just not feeling it. Are you still interested? I said, yeah. And then we ended up talking to them, and they performed amazing. I mean, obviously they had hiccups here and there, and then there was somebody that left. I don't know.
Not that it's of ultimate importance, but they were the first team. Double check myself. They were the first team that we got an ROI on, meaning
return of investment.
No, return on investment. They were the first team that made the organization money, which was really cool for me to see. I mean, if it tells you anything about our passion as leaders, I was literally having like a watch party casting from my phone to the Chromecast on my TV of the stream of them competing for the grand final. And my wife was watching, my brother was over watching, my wife's cousin was over, and we were all rooting for these kids we've never met in our lives. We've only had a few conversations with. They were signed to our org, and we wanted them to win so bad, regardless of what we would gain from it after. So
I remember going over Ashley's house and watching them. I remember that a lot. She's like, when does Overwatch play or whatever? And she would do this. I got her into COD competitive during World War II as well. She's like, is Team Caliber playing yet? And I'm like, nah, not yet. And so then we'll throw them on once they came on. RIP Team Caliber. Hopefully they'll come back. Or maybe they should just die. But anyways, that's a different topic.
Maybe the latter.
Yeah. But it's just Illuminate's best team was by far the Overwatch team. I wish that World War II team with Bacardi and Nero, if they would have stuck around longer, that would have been huge. But unfortunately, they were only with us a short time. And then, I mean, we got the CSGO team now that's winning. We had the CSGO last season that was winning. Obviously, R6 has stayed winning. And then hopefully with the COD team, we obviously haven't seen anything yet from them because the season hasn't started yet. Good things from them. Future teams, I mean, we're doing solid as an org right now. We're doing solid. looking at these teams hitting us up. We know what we're looking for, and we know we just kind of have like what's it, a knack for it. Is that what it is? I don't know the phrase. We have a good eye for talent right now.
Juju.
Yeah, we got the good juju, we got the good mojo.
The mojo.
But it's like the one thing that when I keep asking you for advice, because obviously, I mean, it's like advice. I guess that could be the title of this podcast is advice. There you go, Zach. I found a title. Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about players. Let's go ahead and go to established teams and newer upcoming teams. What are your advices for the starting up of a team? Let's go ahead and start with that. Advice to teams that are starting up. Let's start there.
So you mean like a team of players
orgs?
So owners, prospective owners, and overall leads.
Mm-hmm.
I guess top 5. Number 5. Again, it's sort of a humility thing. You're not all that. Just because you choose to make an org doesn't mean that you're cool or that you're better than other people in the scene. So just sort of a reality check. Understand that before you get there. You're not doing it to be popular or be cool. You're doing it to find success and make it a career path. At least that's what I would assume.
Yeah.
4, be prepared to financially commit. But also be aware that you shouldn't be going all in headfirst immediately unless you have that expendable income. Because, like I said before, at the end of the day, we're a group of guys who have lives as well, and we have to take care of those first and foremost. Like it's nothing against the Eastward scene or Valkyrie, but I love my wife more. That's what it's gotta be. That's what it's gotta be. So it's a reality check there as well. So work within your means, but you also have to understand that if you're gonna make it in the long run, there's gonna have to be a financial commitment.
Yeah,
you're gonna not be able to buy things that you want. You're gonna not be able to spend money on Valorant skins. You're not gonna be able to buy the new game that came out because you may need to, divert those resources elsewhere. 3, I'd say get help. Bring people on that are worth their weight. And with that, and sort of in touch with point 4, since you're not able to really pay people at the start, make sure you're treating them right. Make sure that you're not using them. Make sure that they feel like they're a part of something that's worth being a part of. Tip number 2.
Yeah, he's just
do your research. Make sure that you know what you're talking about. Don't just go with the flow because you think it's what people are doing. Really look into how can I do this better? What should I be doing in general? And that sort of going with that point, you network. You talk to people. Talk to people who have been doing it. See what's worked for them, what hasn't. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Well, that's another thing people think shows weakness. It's not at all. You're just gathering resources. It's no different from reading a book to learn to learn something. You're just networking. You're just talking to a person.
Yeah.
And then my number 1 tip, I would say, is to make sure you're having fun. Because if you're not having fun and you're not enjoying what you're doing, then why are you there?
Yeah.
That's what made me shut down Illuminate ultimately. So, make sure it's not becoming something you're dreading doing. Don't make it monotonous. Make sure it's fresh, fun, upbeat, and something that after you're done with your shift at work, you enjoy coming back to.
Could not relate.
So, yeah.
No, with Illuminate, that was one of my biggest struggles with Illuminate was that. So that last one there. So now for pre-existing orgs that are already in the running and like maybe in the same seat that Valkyrie. It's not so much pro orgs, but maybe like the tier 3, tier 2 orgs. Like, I mean, I consider us a tier 2 org, but in reality, we're like a top tier 3. But
if you want to classify, but
yeah.
Tips for them, I think. I don't really have like a full out list off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I'd say know that you're past the kiddie shit now. You can't just do the basics. You can't just continue to cycle through teams and creators and just do the same thing over and over and over. You're going to have to put some time into looking into business stuff, for us, behind us a little bit, before you can really commit to finding funding from investors or sponsors, and giving out ownership shares and what those are worth. You have to understand what an LLC is and how to get that and what that means for the future. Laying out sort of you don't have to get super detailed, but like get into a business plan, have something that's achievable, as something that's like, you're making a machine and you're trying to put these parts in place to make the machine work well. So you need to purposely put those in place. And then I guess the only other tip I can really think of right now is don't forget why you started. You've come this far, but don't lose sight of why you started.
It's a passion. It is. You got to be able to keep that motivation going as an org owner or even as a staff member, honestly. If you truly want to help out a team, you're going to stay motivated the other time, as much as you can, honestly. But I mean, there's situations where it's like you just got to say, hey, it's like, just can't do it. I mean, that's what I did. You just got to take a step back because honestly, you're kind of holding down the org at that point. It's okay taking a step back. Maybe, I mean, obviously as an owner, in my opinion, you should be trying to give it 100% all the time, but it's not possible, It's like, this isn't your job. It can be your life. It can be your baby. But like if any way you want to look at it. But obviously it's like, your real life stuff comes first. Like you said, your wife. For me, it's Ashley. Family. Like you gotta keep that in check first. Don't ditch everything for the org. You gotta find yourself first before you find like your place in the org. But I'm always about that. Keep making sure you're okay before making sure your online stuff is okay. But that's just how I view it. I mean, you can go back. Me and Tat had a huge discussion in the last podcast about that stuff. So, I mean, that was a good ass talk with Tat. But I mean, I don't know, Mitch, you got anything else to say?
I'm not really. I'm just excited to continue what we're doing.
Yeah, dude.
We have some stuff in the works. I don't know if there's like necessarily anything we can leak or tease.
I haven't leaked anything. But I kind of teased it in the video. If you saw it, you did. If you did, you didn't.
Yeah.
Go on.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was fun though.
All right.
It's cool. This is like my first real experience with.
Yeah, it's your first podcast. Hey, man, it's my first time
wanting to do.
Yeah, it's my first time hosting the podcast and my first time being on a podcast. Who would have guessed? I think this is episode. Hold on, let me scroll up. I have it. I think it's episode 4 now. Yep. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check out. We had a podcast with Zach, who's the current CEO and owner. We've had a podcast with JJ, the deputy himself, a tier 3 Rainbow Six Siege player, and we had Tatiana, who's a content creator and a content creation manager for Valkyrie right now. All 3 were great podcasts, and now we got another one in the books with the Spektral Mitch.
This one's the best.
It's the longest. I think this is the longest one. But other than that, guys, let's go ahead and get into this beautiful outro that I do every time, guys. So thank you all for tuning in to the VALKAST presented by Acquire, the best merch provider in the industry of esports and just in general. Honestly, this shit clean as fuck. Look at this. Hey, this shit came out good. This is like 2 days old right now. It's so clean. But honestly. But for some reason it says, let's go. It says thank you to Miss Tatiana, but that's not right. Thank you to our special guest, Mitchell Kuhn, aka Spektral, for coming onto the show and chatting with us. That's all I have for you today. Make sure you tune in next time for more insight on how the Legion is ran. Check out the description to follow Spec and myself on all the social media platforms. With that being said, thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. You guys have a good rest of your day. Bye, Mitch. Bye. Do it.